Week 7 of the high school football season gets underway this Friday night. This time the Lafayette Broncos come to town. We'll have the game for you as always right here on Radio Troy Digital Sports. Last week that fun and long road trip, and a hot one it was, at Logansport last Friday night as the Red Devils dropped their NCC contest to the Berries. You know, I tell you what, and I look at this at last week. You end up playing teams like Muncie Central. I thought, they'll be all right. They play really well against you.
Yeah.
Thought, well, okay, Logansport struggled last year. You should be okay, and it should be a pretty competitive ball game. They're better than I thought they were going to be. And then you get hit by more injuries again. And I was mentioning to Coach before we started, I have my binoculars up. I'm looking for these guys, and all of a sudden I see Blaine Pierce over there and O'Shea Henderson over there and stuff. So it sounds like we could have done this show several times already, and it's like a bad dream, but more injuries got you again on Friday.
Yeah, we had 5 more kids go down with injuries on Friday night. Blaine Pierce went down with a concussion. O'Shea Henderson went down with a concussion. Brandon Curtis went down with a concussion. Jackson Haynes went down with what we thought was a broken leg, but it turned out to be a high ankle sprain. And then Caleb Wages, has been having knee issues all year, and I guess tweaked his knee and wasn't able to return. So, 5 starters out, during the course of that game. And just add those guys to the long list of other guys that we have injured right now. It's just been one of those years, if we didn't have bad luck, we wouldn't have any. So
you've never gone through this before, have you? I mean, I don't know
not
anybody
with these
has.
kinds of injuries. No, not with these kinds of injuries. I've dealt with the losses before. My first season there at Northwest, I wasn't the head coach, but I was an assistant coach. We went 0-10. Didn't win a game. Program was in similar shape to what this one is. This one is in now, in that the low participation rates. The focus was put more on winning instead of building good quality young men, academic excellence. So I think that there's just been too much of an emphasis put on winning football games around here with this football program. Not enough emphasis put on building good quality, high character student athletes, and that's what we're putting the focus on now. And I know we'll get this thing turned around. It's just a matter of time, and could be, like I said, a blessing in disguise, God's way of feeding us a humble pie, and let everybody know, hey, get in the weight room. You really got to be committed in the off season. Games are won and lost in the off season, and then we didn't have an off season. Like I said, when I got here in April, there was 10 kids in the weight room. I think 5 of those decided that football was just too tough for them, when I took over, and didn't want to play anymore. So, that's kind of been the story of the season. Yep.
If you don't, by the way, this is not a recording we've done before, so it sounds like it, but Coach, 3 turnovers, 2 kind of set you behind the 8 ball, and a couple of them early, and then once that snowball started going, it was going downhill fast.
I think, offensively, with our team, our kids just, they're struggling to believe right now in our offense, because our offense has been so sporadic, and one little turnover, can change the tide of the team's belief, and again, once you stop believing, you lose. So we're still trying to fight against that, and it's a football game. It's 4 quarters. The other team is going to make some plays, just the same that we're going to make some plays. And I've been talking, to the kids a lot about the Urban Meyer book, Above the Line, and they talk about the ERO, which is there's an event that happens, and then there's your response or your reaction to that event, and then that equals the outcome. And so we've really been talking to them about that and trying to emphasize how we react to things is what's most important. Adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. And it's how you respond to that adversity. is what builds your character. So, the turnovers didn't help. Had a fumble by Deloney that they scooped and picked up and ran back for quite a number of yards. We had an interception by Brandon Curtis that was pretty early, and then after he was out of the game, Trayshawn Jones threw one late, later in the contest, and the one on Trayshawn is just he had been playing quarterback for 4 days, so you would expect something like that from him.
What I don't find it funny, but I'm thinking it does take a lot of guts on your part to say, well, let's, of course, with Brandon being hurt, you could have gone with maybe your freshman, but he hasn't played really enough. Right. You had mentioned to me that maybe Trayshawn, with his ability to throw the football, he's got ability to run the football, that he could be a possibility, and that turned out to be the case. So you kind of jump back in the fire again using another kid that's barely played football first off, and now a quarterback for 4 days.
Yeah.
So,
well, from our perspective, we love Zach Hill. Mm-hmm. We think he's going to be really, really special at the quarterback position, but just not yet. Yeah. And my thing is I want to keep the kid's confidence high. Yeah. And putting him in there, against 17, 18-year-old kids, and you're a freshman with no chin hair or mustache yet. That's not doing the kid any, service. We're not doing the kid justice in that situation. And, we found out Trayshawn can throw the ball, and, so Trayshawn Jones is going to be our guy for the rest of the year going forward, and we're really going to start grooming him to get him ready for next year, and, continue to develop Zach, and then when Trayshawn graduates, it'll be Zach's team. So, Zach will be a junior by then. He'll have, 2 years of playing quarterback under his belt. Yeah. So it just wasn't fair to him to put him in there this early, and with those live bullets flying against some of the competition that we're going up against, because every single team we've played has just been bigger, faster, and stronger than we've been, and I don't want to get the kid hurt.
Yeah, don't blame you a bit. Well, speaking of bullets flying, guess who's next? Lafayette Jeff coming up on Friday night. Coach will love to talk about the Broncos, undefeated, coming in, one of the top teams in 6A football. Yeah. We'll talk about that next, right here on Radio Troy Digital Sports.
For the past 35 years, Van Vliet Insurance has built a reputation of bringing a personal touch. That's because at Van Vliet, it's all about you, your needs, your life, and our town. Along with providing quality coverage to individuals, families, and local businesses, we're proud of our community and the opportunity we have to protect your future within it. Van Vliet Insurance, an Erie Insurance representative. Hometown professionals at work for you.
Lafayette Jeff coming to town, coming up on Friday night. And as we mentioned before the break, this is another different animal. They're smelling right now an NCC championship, and they hope to keep that thing rolling coming up on Friday. Undoubtedly, I can sit here and talk about how good they are, but listen, bottom line is we saw them last year up there, and you could see that building process that is continuing to happen with Lafayette Jeff. What do you see in the Broncos now?
Really, really tough team, very, very disciplined. Scheme-wise, they just have some amazing schemes, offensively, defensively. In order to prepare for this team, man, you've got to spend hours in the film room as a coach, coming up with a game plan, really digging into what they do. And then, as a team, you really have to study, and you have to play your A game. Just to even have a chance to compete, we're going to have to play like a perfect game.
Yeah, they remind me of a team they had, well, this would be several years ago. Their quarterback ended up going to IU, and the guy was throwing all over the place and just score. Yeah. Their offense is very, very high-powered.
Yeah, their offense is very high-powered. We've got 3 game films of them, and they punted 3 times in those
no kidding.
In 3 games. One was against Lafayette Central Catholic, one was against Harrison, and one was against Marion.
Yeah, so 3 pretty good football teams.
3 really good football teams, and they've only punted 3 times this season. So our defense is really going to have to play lights out just to even give ourselves a chance to compete. And our offense, man, they have some kids that get after it on defense. They really, really, really get after it. The the intensity level, the effort that they play with is second to none. I mean, they really remind me of New Pal in terms of just the overall intensity and effort that they bring to the field. And it's not just one play here, one play there. No, every single play, these guys are coming as hard as they could possibly come. So you better be prepared for a dogfight.
Before we close today's show, and I said this to you during the break, it reminds me of, because they went through some really, really tough times in football too at Lafayette Jeff. I mean, they just couldn't find a way to win football games. When that table turns, and I'm hoping you're going to see this soon, when that table turns and you start beating people, it becomes infectious. And you're like, hey, listen, this is more fun. And so you understand where their mentality comes from, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. All you need is a little taste, you know, just a little taste of winning. And you start to really see that hard work does pay off. There is no secret sauce for this game. You know, football is, you know, hard work wins, and that's what it is. You know, and it's not about it's players, not plays. So you have to develop players. You know, you can go out there and run any play you want to run, but what kind of players do you have running those plays? So you know, we're really. That's going to be our mindset. You know, we've got to develop these kids. We've got to get them in the weight room. We've got to make them better athletes, and we've got to, you know, build the high character where we can trust them on Friday nights to do their job. We've got to build the academic excellence in the classroom so that they're smart guys and they understand what we're doing offensively and defensively, because we're not just lining up and running wing T. You know, we're not just lining up and, you know, playing a 4-4 stack defense. No, we're running college style offense and a college style defense, and you know, everything I do with my program is the same thing that I did at my previous school. You know, we try to make this as like a prep school to get you ready to go to college and play college football. So everything we do, from the study hall, you know, to the grade checks, to film study sessions, weightlifting in the off season, you know, the verbiage that we use for our plays, you know, some of the things that we do offensively, RPO concepts and inside outside zones, you know, quick passing game, things like that, and defensively, you know, 3-4 team. So using a lot of speed and athleticism, different coverages, mixing up some blitzes. You just got to be a smart football player, you know, and if you haven't played a lot of football before, and then, you know, I mean, kids are still, even at this point in the season, we're not really adding in anything new. They're still looking like, you know, they're still trying to figure it out. You know, and when we get there, when we finally get it to start clicking, you know, we're going to be all right. But, you know, we're just got a lot of inexperienced young football players. I know I keep saying that over and over, and it's not an excuse, but, you know, that's the honest to God truth. You know, every Friday night we're going out there and putting kids on the field that should probably be playing JV football, and you know, at a school like Lafayette Jeff or Lafayette Harrison, or programs that have actually established a solid foundation, you know, a lot of our kids would be playing JV football right now. All of our sophomores that are starting for us would be playing JV football. So you know, that'd be Wyatt Bird, Blaine Pierce, Jackson Haynes, you know, Branton Thomas, Jewel Taylor. You know, all of those guys have been starting for us pretty much since the beginning of the season. All are sophomores, you know, and like I said, an established program, those guys would be playing JV football. And it's not, you know, in knocking anything, and, you know, not to talk negatively about them, because I think they're great football players, especially when, you know, we get a few more years of development. Those guys are going to be the foundation of what we're doing. But that's just, you know, we're playing against juniors and seniors, you know. And last Friday night against Logansport, you know, we had Zach Hill, a freshman quarterback. He stepped in and played linebacker. You know, we had Keyshawn Edwards, who's a freshman defensive lineman. He's been playing in the rotation since Muncie Central. So we're playing with freshmen and sophomores, and, you know, we've only got a few seniors that have actually given us good quality minutes. You know, and that's Shea Hall, Colton Davis, Jarrell Deloney. Bubba Sanders hadn't really played much this season. I mean, he's played 2 games for us. You know, Caleb Wages has been sporadic. Jimmy Gifford hadn't played since week 1 and probably won't play anymore this season. Caleb Ellis played the first 2 games, hasn't played since. Delonte Hampton played in the first game, hasn't played since.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, that has kind of been the story. Now, Tramel Carpenter has given us good quality minutes. You know, Jarrell Deloney, Cody Reese, who's a first-year football player, has given us good quality minutes. Brandon Curtis has played, you know, significant minutes for us. But, you know, it's not like you go down the list and every single one of the guys is a sophomore or a senior or a junior. You know, I look at the roster for, or the depth chart for Lafayette Jeff. They've got 2 sophomores playing.
Yeah.
You know, all the rest of the guys are juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
You know, so you know you're going against 17, 18-year-old kids, and we've got 14, 15, 16-year-olds in there, mostly across the board. So.
You know, and the one thing about it, when your players get hurt, they lose the experience, and so it sets them back even further. Because, like you said, you got to learn this game on a Friday night. You learn it during the week, the preparation, but on Friday night, everything's so much different that if you don't understand the speed of the game and everything else, you lose that valuable time too.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach, good luck.
Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll have Friday night's game, and of course, Abe will be back with us next week. We'll talk about not only Friday night's game, but then we'll look ahead to Anderson as well. We'll do that next week right here on Radio Troy Digital Sports.